has huge implications for the states. That's where a lot of this is going to get done. Connecticut's Governor, Dan Malloy, joins us this morning. You guys have been one of the leaders on this, and this obviously allows you to move forward in a much quicker way. But I'm curious, given all of the rhetoric we've heard this morning already, even the second the decision came out, that there's going to still be a real push to repeal this, how does that change or even impact your thinking?
Well, I think you got to start talking to other people. The reality is, if the package had gone down yesterday at the Supreme Court, 500,000 people who will otherwise be covered in Connecticut would have lost that opportunity. This is good for business. It's good for job creation. And quite frankly, it's the right thing to do. The alternative is to not get involved in keeping people healthy, have them get their treatment at the emergency room at the most expensive point. Right. And well into their disease, where you're only confronted with, in many cases, end-of-life, high end-of-life cost.
Governor, Kelly King, who's the CEO of BB&T, is here, and you have a different view.
Well, Governor, certainly we're all trying to have good health care in our country, and certainly we're all trying to grow jobs, but I would respectfully disagree with your view that this health care program is going to increase jobs. It's a massive tax increase across the board. The lower income folks are taxed, small businesses are taxed, larger businesses are taxed, middle income people are taxed. How's that going to help grow the economy?
And I've been listening to you all morning, and I certainly understand that you have a point of view. But the reality is, you create jobs when you extend coverage to millions and millions of additional people who are otherwise not accessing health care. The reality will be in the United States that this will, in fact, create jobs. There's no other way not to have that happen. And quite frankly, here I sit in Connecticut. We have some of the biggest health care players. You can argue that the margins of profit will change, but you can't argue that there's going to be more work to do. There simply is going to be more work to do because more people are covered by insurance.
Oh, go ahead.
Not to be argumentative, but you're right. I mean, certainly there will be some jobs created in health care delivery. My point, though, is from a global perspective, this broad-based tax increase will cause a reduction in jobs across the entire country. And so while you will get some independent growth maybe in health care, you'll lose a lot more on the other side.
You know, you've chosen to ignore the fact that there's a lot in this package to hold costs down. And you're choosing to ignore the fact that in the United States, we're paying a higher percentage of our gross national product to support the current medical system with little cost control and little being done, particularly to cut the cost of providing services to people who don't otherwise have good health care. I think you've made a decision that there's no way that this works. No, but quite frankly, I think the American people, when you ask them about the individual provisions, absolutely understand that this will work for their families, whether they're in the middle class, the lower class, or the upper class. We need to have an America where people have health care.
But sir, respectfully, I mean, there are people who have looked at this plan. There are analysts on Wall Street who cover the very companies that are directly involved in the implementation of it and say that it's very likely that premiums will rise over the long term, making the Affordable Care Act not as affordable as you and others, members of your party, would like to believe.
Can we just be serious for a moment?
That was a serious question.
In what period over the last 20 years have health care premiums gone down?
Okay, they never have.
Okay, so in this package, and you don't have to, simply listen to me. There are lots of other analysts who have looked at this thing and say that prices will, in fact, rise less rapidly than they would otherwise.
But you're admitting they will rise.
One second. Since the passage of this act, prices of coverage have actually increased at a lower percentage rate than at any time in the last 15 years. That's a reality.
Governor, just walk us through the practical permutations of what happens next from a state's perspective.
Well, we've been actively engaged in working at setting up our marketing tool, and many states have not done that. But we've done all of the hard work, and we'll continue to do the hard work, so that by 2014 we're up with our system to make sure that people have access and can compare costs. That's what we're doing. That's a hard piece of work to do. But we didn't, sit on the sides like a bunch of folks did, predicting one thing would happen and have the other thing happen.
But
we've done the hard work.
The flip side is, had this decision gone the other way, you would have spent a lot of money that you probably would have been upset spending.
Well, in point of fact, a lot of the money that we have spent was money that flowed to the state under the Act.
But you're saying this morning that Connecticut
by the way, created jobs.
Will Connecticut opt out of the Medicaid provision?
No.
Hey, Governor, can I ask you real quickly? I realize that there are an awful lot of problems with the healthcare system the way it was set up before. There are millions of people who need coverage. There is a real need to bring down costs. But there are still some serious questions about how this gets implemented. There are small businesses that have raised concerns about the burden they'll face once they have 50 people or more and are forced to provide health care. And I guess my question is, we don't want to assume that there are no problems with this and that there aren't going to be some real glitches that go along. Other industries like the medical device makers are going to be paying a tax that will hold back on some ends. And I guess my question is, clearly there were problems with what was out there before. Clearly we need some fixes, but there are many people who don't think this is the perfect solution, and there still needs to be some work. Would you agree with that?
Well, listen, I don't think it's a perfect system. I think the president has said that. The president says that there are things that we're going to have to do, just as we have to make changes on an ongoing basis to reflect market conditions. But listen, this has been up and running in Massachusetts. Thanks to the good work of Governor Romney, we actually have a test case. I mean, he proved that this
Everybody's
works.
got political talking points. Nobody's answering actual questions.
No, I'm answering the question. Wait a minute. I am answering the question. Do things have to be changed as we go along and as we learn more about the package? Absolutely.
Governor, real quick, because we got to go. Politically, this idea that it's now going to be described as a tax going forward, how difficult does that make the upcoming election? Does it change the dynamic in a different way?
But, you know, this is a wonderful thing about Republicans. They get to have their cake and eat it, too. They were ready to spike the ball yesterday if it went down, and they want to spike the ball today because it's a tax increase. The American people understand that we're spending too much on health care, that it was rising too rapidly, and too few people had access to health care, which was also costing, actually shifting costs very significantly because we were causing people to get latent disease treatment at the most expensive point. So the reality is, you're going to call it a tax. Everybody you have on let me say,
Supreme Court called it a tax.
80% of the people you have on your show are going to decide to call it a tax.
Wait, that was the decision by the Supreme Court, and that's why they allowed it to stand.
19 million American families in the middle class will actually get a tax cut.
All right, sir.
Okay, we're going to leave it there, Governor. We appreciate your time, and we wish you a happy 4th of July next week.
You too.
Thanks.